thriving, playing, living life to the fullest. Our mission for Kansans since 2003. We are Kansas Spine and Specialty Hospital, proudly supporting KPTS, Public Television for Kansas.
The following program is brought to you by TZ Productions, offering 40 years of media experience.
These stories are like old friends. Their lives radiate from the screen like prophets of the past. They were teachers, but not in a classroom. Instead, they taught about life to those around them who cared to listen, and I was their student.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in, everybody. We're going to start this week with a story that's likely to bring both smiles and tears.
Now, her name was Tanya Tandoc, and you know that name. She was a Wichita restaurateur and a woman for all seasons. Tanya was a friend to many, and her light shined brightly no matter what she was doing. Though the story ended tragically, her life remains a source of joy to all who knew her. Now, this is a trip back in time to 2011.
Come on, step in. Come on inside the restaurant. Thank you for being so patient and waiting. I wanted to own my own restaurant, and I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to do something that was simple and interesting with excellent food that wasn't too complicated. All the chefs that make the soup are women, and I really love that. I get to talk to everybody that's in the line, and I really love that part. I'm good. How are you? Hi, Richard. How are you? It's all, it's about people and food and sharing that with each other. My dad's Filipino, and my mom's American, and she married my exotic dad, and they moved to Canada to have me, and I think that her world of American food, it was fairly traditional American food, mixed really well with the culture of his Filipino food world. She was the nurse and he's the doctor. We got to eat all kinds of food, and that was awesome. And for me, that was, being able to eat, Indian food as a little girl, changed forever the way I approached thinking about spices and thinking about other cultures. And it really made a huge impression on me as a person and as a cook. Maybe we should do it over drinks. So I looked around for culinary schools, and I decided that I would go to the California Culinary Academy in San Francisco. It was absolutely the best place that I could be, and I loved it. I loved it. It was awesome. I love dancing. I've always been a dancer, but I really love dancing with other women, and I love belly dance for its complete earthiness and being sexy so much as it's being powerful and strong and having that come through. One month, we have nothing but lettuce and radishes poking up through the snow. I have always loved the radio. I like being part of the group of women's voices on the radio. Spring is a little slower. We get lettuces first, and they are so exciting when they first come up. I also play the cello. I have since I was 9. You don't know how much time you get. So I'm trying to pack as much into the time that I have. Happy doesn't even begin to describe how complicated I feel about my life. I have this incredible crew of beautiful people who really care about what they're doing and really care about the customers. And you can tell. Did it stick?
It was awesome.
Okay,
That's
good.
why I'm here today.
Are you still married?
I'm still married.
Okay, God. Oh. If I didn't have to sleep, I wouldn't. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Just too much to do that's fantastic to waste a single second.
Incredible words of wisdom from Tanya, and we all miss her and very are saddened by her passing away so young.
She was such a wonderful, free spirit. And when you were around her, you couldn't help but smile. She just made you smile. She made you feel good. She made you feel happy. That's one reason why she had so many friends, really scattered all over the state.
And she says life is short. She lived it to the fullest,
She did.
no matter how
She did.
short it was.
Well, the Wichita community was shocked in 2015 when, of course, Tanya was murdered in her home. The killer was a down-and-out musician she was letting live in her basement. As a favor, he is now serving a life sentence.
Now to another life worth emulating. His name was Philip Blake.
Now, Philip served in World War II and then later served his fellow veterans by ensuring their sacrifices were not forgotten.
I wouldn't want to go through it again, but I wouldn't take a fortune for that experience.
In Wichita, it is military monuments like this one in Riverside Park that owe a debt of gratitude to Phil Blake.
I have become so acquainted with those memorials and learned the history of each of them until it's precisely like I'm visiting an old friend.
It all started when Phil saw the deterioration and the vandalism of the Bicentennial Memorial Flag Pavilion in the park along the river downtown.
And the idea of permitting a bicentennial memorial to the United States flag to fall into such dilapidated condition, to me, was just disgraceful.
That pavilion is now restored thanks to Phil, who raised the issue with former Mayor Carlos Mayans, and with the help from the city, the congressional delegation, and others, funding was secured.
Once I got immersed in it, the thought of abandoning it was just unthinkable.
Over the past few years, Phil has overseen reconstruction of many of Wichita's forgotten tributes to the past, like this one to the Spanish-American War in Riverside Park.
You'll see a number of shrapnel wounds all over the surface, and I particularly like this fella because he has his hand on his hip and he looks pretty saucy and jaunty, like he is saying, "Go ahead, make my day."
Another under Phil's watchful eye is the World War II Memorial Stone in McAdams Park.
And somebody had to do it. And if not me, who?
Who? Indeed. Phil believes that saving and understanding Wichita's war memorials is so important, he's even written a book about each and every one. It's a simple story of freedom.
If it's not free, then somebody paid the price for that freedom. And the veterans are the people that paid that price. My two brothers and I all served in the South Pacific, and we all came home.
Like so many heroes of the greatest generation, Phil has since passed away. But his noble legacy, boy, it sure does live on with those great veterans monuments that we see right here in Wichita. And, of course, his lifetime of service to those great veterans.
The legacy of this next Kansan is in the amazing photos he's been taking all of his life. He's famous for his work in National Geographic, and in 2011 faced a particular challenge in documenting the King James Bible in pictures.
This is one thing I saw. We shot all this stuff at Westminster Abbey, and there was that moment when this priest goes walking down there in his red robe, and I got off about 4 or 5 frames very quickly with a motor drive right there. I was pretty sure that was something.
It was something, as most of Jim Richardson's pictures are. He's been with National Geographic since 1984 and travels constantly all over the world.
I had boldly said to National Geographic, "Sure, we can photograph that."
In his Lynchburg studio, he's been looking at the 27,000 pictures he shot for this story, the King James Bible Making a Masterpiece. It's a difficult assignment that had him traveling to Europe, Jamaica, and the U.S.
And when you get right down to it, the story is about a book. And there are only so many pictures you can take of a book and make them interesting. and somehow we had to find ways of bringing it to life and bringing real action into it.
Action like circuit-riding Baptist minister Rome Wager, who bases his life on the King James Version and breaks horses at the same time.
Finding real action happening around the Bible is rather difficult. What you think of is somebody sits at a table and reads. Well, that's a very difficult thing to make a picture of.
The thrust of the National Geographic story is that the King James Bible, printed 400 years ago, molded the English language, gave us common phrases we use today, and enshrined a gospel of individual freedom.
Whether or not you are religious, whether you're a Christian, it is still part of the English language, how the English language has come down to us. The very words that we say, the kinds of phrases that we use, those things are just absolutely jumping off the page of this Bible.
Sorting through the thousands of pictures that he took on this assignment, Richardson says a good picture is all about light and timing, like this one of this Scottish church.
This picture, here's the sun is out, here's this picture, the sun is gone. This is 8 seconds later. 8 seconds makes that much difference. I always say, if you want to be a better photographer, stand in front of more interesting stuff. and it works.
His pictures tell stories, from the Rastafarians of Jamaica chanting with the King James Bible, or Bob Marley's room in Jamaica, where many of his lyrics were taken from that Bible. Each picture, powerful in its own way, helps readers understand the context of the story. The pictures portraying King James England in a way that gives us perspective on a Bible that seems to have been around forever.
I mean, that's my dream as a photographer, is to actually reach people, to tell them something, to share something, and to make lives richer. And if I can do that here during the Christmas season, that's a good thing.
Well, that issue came out in December of 2011. It got huge attention worldwide. And Richardson's work continues to be featured in National Geographic and elsewhere. He still lives in Lindsborg, where he also showcases his work in a gallery on Main Street.
It is the Small World Gallery there in Lindsborg, and do yourself a favor, visit it sometimes. You'll be very impressed. Well, from beautiful sights to beautiful sounds, the voice of Donna Tucker brings pleasure to jazz fans all around the world. Now, she could live anywhere, but she moved back to Kansas after a traumatic event threatened to derail her life. Now, this story is from 2004.
Is the place full? Pretty full?
At Cabaret Old Town recently, they were waiting for this woman, Donna Tucker.
Be a friend to a friend who's crying. How will I know? What will I see? Tell me when I get there.
She is an internationally renowned jazz artist, known in Japan, Dallas, and other venues. But here, where she lives, she's nearly invisible.
Yes, I was probably testing the water to see if Wichita would be receptive to what I do.
Donna Tucker, ladies and gentlemen.
Come on and cry me a river. I cried a river over you.
I want people to come to my performance and feel that they're in my living room.
Nearly drove me out of my head.
Overseas in Japan, she plays 4 months at a time at the Tokyo Westin Hotel. Her office there comes with a view.
The Japanese love American jazz. They're a very, very wonderful audience.
For 20 years, she lived in Dallas, where she had a great following at Arthur's Jazz Club and on TV.
This is kind of like getting to play dress up every time you work. There's really not anything in this business that I don't enjoy doing.
Then, 15 years ago, a bad thing happened.
I was robbed and injured in my home in Dallas. My husband found me handcuffed to a pillar in our bedroom, And it was a long time of recovery, emotionally.
So because of that, and the fact that this Oberlin native missed Kansas, Donna came back.
There's something about Midwestern people that you don't find in other places of the world. When you go home, you really go home.
Well, I might take a train, I might take a plane. If I'm on a walk, I want to do the same. Gone to Kansas City, here I come.
For the past decade, she's worked on and off in Japan, but lived in Wichita, quietly producing concerts for others while she remained in the background.
Pitch on Day by Day, F sharp.
Now, with one Wichita concert under her belt and working with the new Savoy Band, it just might be time for Donna Tucker to get back into the spotlight.
Your golden sun will shine for me.
My music's who I am. I often have said, in fact, in the last few years, I'm going to get out of this business. I'm not going to do this anymore. And people look at me and say, but it's who you are.
And yes, she is still at it. You'll find a link to Donna's website on the Hatteberg's People page at kpts.org. She is a wonderful singer. Kansas is fortunate to have her.
The velvet voice.
Absolutely. It is a velvet voice.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, the Kansan in this next story had a passion for pool and pool tables.
Now, his business was in Clay Center, but he was well known nationwide for his work.
I'm real fortunate.
That is Loyal Newell, who is more comfortable in a pool hall than probably anywhere else. In downtown Clay Center, Loyal's antique store stands as a monument to the past.
We've got a little bit of junk everywhere, and whether it'll sell or not, we really don't know. Most everything we move.
His shop is next door to the pool hall Loyal used to own. Now the antique store is now run by his children.
That table was made about 1885.
The Los Angeles Times called this place the Smithsonian of the pool business.
Cost about $50 a piece to have them re-nickeled. I got the idea that them billiard tables could be cut up and made into pool tables, and so I started buying billiard tables. I even had guys say, yeah, you get the SOB out of here. He said, I'll give it to you.
Over time, Loyal has purchased the contents of over 80 pool halls all over Kansas and elsewhere,
I heard a lot of stuff here.
and made a lifetime business of restoring the old tables to their full luster.
So that's been my big salvation in the last 60 years or 50 years of the billiard table part of it, and we made pool tables out of them.
Now are you as good at shooting the pool as you are at fixing the tables?
Oh, yeah, I don't take no backseat to any of them.
Young customers know who to talk to as they furnish their homes with relics of the past.
How much room you got?
I don't have enough room for the full-size table is my problem there.
How much room you got?
Loyal knows exactly how much room you need for each table. He's put over 350 of them in the Kansas City area alone.
You got to be proud of something that you restored.
On his wall, pictures with pool legends like Fast Eddie and many others.
Those pictures were all taken over next door in the pool hall.
His office is eclectic with life's little messes everywhere.
Oh, well, yeah, it would be.
He's done so much in his career, baseball, pool, you name it. It is a life well lived.
It's been real interesting.
Mothers everywhere used to tell their sons to stay away from the pool halls. Loyal did just the opposite, and his legend continues.
I'm here.
Loyal had a great run. He passed away in 2014 at the age of 88. The business is now closed, but people across the country are still enjoying his pool tables.
And now to the broadcasting game and one of the few locally owned radio stations in Wichita. Now, the owner is Terry Atherton. And even when I did this story back in 1999, the idea of a station not owned by a massive conglomerate was almost unheard of.
KSGL, this is Terry. We're 900 on the AM dial. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Locally owned small stations like this one on West Central in Wichita used to be common in cities across America.
And this is KSGL in Wichita.
Not anymore.
Oh, I like small. Small's good. Small's a lot less complicated. Hey, Joel, how much more work do you have to do in here?
Terry Atherton and his family own KSGL and KMYR radio. They're one of the last holdouts against the huge corporations that are now swallowing up radio stations everywhere.
Oh, it sounds like a lot of good ideas. Thanks a lot, Jerry.
Wow. Monday, need to start working on the commercials.
We are a family partnership, and I tell you what, this is fun. My kids both work for me.
It's fun. It can be difficult, but it's fun.
Oh, it's not too bad since he's not here all the time.
I love being able to come to work, and they're going to be here, and I get to see them every day.
And his dad is chief engineer.
It's just fun, and if you can't have fun with what you do, then why do it?
11:08 in the morning time. This is Chuck Hamilton at KMYR, the home of the music you remember.
With some part-time help, this family operation fills a community niche.
We started off because this was a ministry, and that's what it's continued to be. I got into it because I believed in what we do. And Back to the Bible is sponsored on KSGL by the Good News Broadcasting Association out of Lincoln, Nebraska.
Doing it all means no country club lunches.
But it serves its purpose on a busy day.
And being CEO means you cut your own grass.
The field, now, I do mow the field.
And here it isn't money that grows on the vine.
Yeah, why don't we check the tomatoes? Look at this one. It's turning nice. It's going to be ready in a day or two. They don't grow as well at home. It's a new spot. It's just that much less to mow. It wasn't that much trouble. And look, they're still turning. Danny Gaither here on KSGL. It is 10 o'clock. It gets to be a challenge, but so far we've paid the bills. But we're a partnership with the people that listen to us. We came over here and we wanted to do this to preserve what we do in Wichita. And we wanted to make sure that this voice of Christian radio stayed on the air. So far, we've been able to do that.
Nearly 2 decades later, KSGL is still going strong, and it's still a family business with Terry, his son, and his daughter. And the station just recently started broadcasting in FM. You'll find it at 105.7 on the dial.
Here's another family-owned Kansas gem. It's the oldest arboretum west of the Mississippi, and it's in Kingman County. Your tour guide is John Riggs.
Hey guys, come back here.
That's John Riggs. Now, he is the third-generation owner of the Riggs Arboretum in Waterloo, Kansas.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Good.
Today, it is a field trip to a forest for some Kansas students. This 10-acre arboretum may be small, but its history is long.
The grandfather lived here and built this arboretum little by little. So the arboretum is a great conservatory, really, of tree species, things that he tried.
Now in Waterloo, there isn't much. The church highlights the skyline, but the arboretum is the calling card.
And my part of this is to lead a tour back through the forest, and it takes about a half an hour to go through, look at the significant trees. Well, it's an alligator bark, but what's the tree?
Persimmon trees.
Persimmon, that's correct, it is a persimmon. And remember, only the persimmon has that bark. If all you could see is a little bit of bark, you'd know it was a persimmon.
Every year, John opens the Arboretum for student tours. His great-grandfather, also named John, began planting trees here way back in 1887.
And this is the biggest one in Kansas. That's the state champion.
It became an experimental forestry station over the years.
But these are the very first ones to come in, and they're so recognized by state and federal forestry.
And they still use it for educational outreach.
My name is Dennis Carlson. I'm a district forester. We want to welcome you here to the Riggs Arboretum.
Over 60 varieties of trees flourish, including 4 of the state's tallest trees. The grandson of the founder is proud of this place, and he loves to educate the children.
And the big lesson they leave with is, look, for the first time in your lives, understand that trees and humans are very parallel in their lifespans. The tree will outlive you by 300 or 400 years, but you respond to environmental influences just about the same. It's amazing to watch the little kids. Most of them have never thought of a tree as a living being, and it's a lot of fun to take them through, teach them the history, show them the trees, and show them the parallels between the lives of trees and the lives of humans. This thing is a living being, and it's responding to the environment just like I do. So that's what we're trying to teach them here, that these are living things, and they need to have some respect for trees. That's basically what we're teaching. This is what the grandfather wanted to have happen. And like my dad told me so many years ago, I have to do it because it is the thing to do.
John tells us he just had 350 elementary students out for a visit. If you have a group that would like to tour the Riggs Arboretum, you'll find the contact info on the Hatteberg's People page at kpts.org.
And now we're going to leave you with a story to reflect upon and ponder. The year was 1999, and I paid a visit to Virgil Coleman in Harper County.
Quiet. Nobody to bother me.
He warms and waits for nothing in particular in a room of old lace, winter's harshness a fly screen away.
I just like to be out among nature.
Virgil Coleman has always waited in this room. He lives in the house he was born in 89 years ago.
Wouldn't know how to live anywhere else.
Last year, his wife of 55 years, Mary, died, leaving Virgil now alone with his constant cats.
Yeah, just me and the cats anymore.
Virgil lives his days in a measured pace. Change is foreign. Old is familiar. Everything in its place.
I like to live a simple life. People didn't live so fast when I was a child.
In Virgil's life, there has always been the farm.
I like to farm.
There has always been time.
Living too fast for me. I think people are putting too much emphasis on money anymore. They need to put it on God. On the memories.
Virgil figures he'll come full circle on this land.
And telling everybody I was born here and going to be buried here. Yeah, there's been a lot of change. Nothing's hardly like it used to be.
Now, Virgil lived another 8 years before passing away in 2007. Incredible guy to be around. He was 97 years old.
Well, that is a wrap for this week. Thank you for watching.
See you next time.
The preceding program was brought to you by TZ Productions, offering 40 years of media experience.